My name is Alani, and I am the CEO of Phlatbed. And before I start, I would like to ask a question, and that is, has anyone here ever shopped on Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, eBay, OfferUp, Let Go? Boom. Has anyone ever found a deal on a bulk item, but they ended up not buying it because it wouldn't fit in their Mini Cooper or Tesla? Boom. And you end up not buying that thing, right? That's awesome. Great. Okay, so Phlatbed connects you to local drivers who can help you move items from point A to point B on demand. It could be a store purchase, an online marketplace purchase, junk removal, or moving between apartments. We've been around since November 2016, and we have a distribution across the country of just under 25,000 drivers so far in just about every major city. We have about 800 in Charlotte here alone. In addition, we actually service a lot of residential properties. We also have retail partners as well, in addition to regular individual users. And we have been mentioning some of those channels I put there. Those are the more known ones. There's some other minor industry journals that we've been featured on. And there's a lot of talk about the gig economy, and we are part of that ecosystem. And the market we disrupt is the local hauling market. Overall, is an aggregator of about $62 billion, with our addressable portion of it, about $12 billion. And those are some of our investors: Connecticut Innovations, Frontiers Acquisitions, and a few private investors as well. This is the core leadership team. That's myself. I've been in industry about 19 years now, with about $60 million in exits. I have Arne, who's from Wall Street and also in tech. He's done a few exits himself. A fairly well-known VC fellow. And Pauline, who's our portfolio manager at CI, and she's done a few exits herself. And this is our ecosystem as it sits today. We are partners with Bozzuto Residential. They're one of the largest property management companies in the United States and pushing into Canada as well. Hertz, as a matter of fact, that was a connection that was made by Lyft. They actually introduced Hertz to Phlatbed and thought we could do something, and we announced that about 2 weeks ago. And Macari is a shopping app, an Amazon competitor for people to buy and sell, sort of Let Go or OfferUp, like Facebook Marketplace. People sell to each other. And we have our drivers and our user network as well. The way it works is in the application, you snap a photo of it, you describe it, you set your date, you want it picked up, time, and you actually name your price. It goes to our drivers, they respond, you select a driver, they go pick it up and drop it off. So we've removed that uncertainty between buyer and seller, where most people might want to buy an item and they're not sure, do I really want to go pick it up? Do I have the time? Do I have to take time off work? Is it safe? All those variables we eliminated. We are in the business of time. We give you your time back. You name your price. So our driver picks it up, drops it off. You don't even interact with the seller in real time. And the way we do that also was we take a 25% cut. So whether it's a $50 move or a $1,000 move, Phlatbed keeps 25% off the top, and the drivers keep 75%. Okay, I won't distract you with that. Those are some I won't distract you with. That's an FAQ section. Those are some of our competitors, and I'll talk about this as we get into Q&A, because we'll see a lot about those guys. Let's see. Okay, yeah. So Bozzuto, Hertz, Macari, that's where we are with them. That kind of summarizes what they do. We move residents in and out of all their properties across the United States. In addition to our drivers having access to the Hertz fleet. So we can go to any Hertz location across the country. You just show your profile as a Phlatbed driver, it shows your green badge, and you have a commercial van waiting for you anyway. So at any Hertz location in the United States, there are 2 vans on standby at any time during the day that our drivers can have access to perform the jobs, because sometimes a driver might have an SUV, but they don't have a cargo van, and they really want that job. So we don't eliminate the possibilities for drivers, and they love that. Post Road is another residential property. Macari I talked about earlier. They're using our drivers to pick up and drop off items. Talked about Hertz. And this is some general FAQs about safety. We clear and pre-screen all our drivers, the same process Lyft uses. As a matter of fact, a lot of Lyft drivers are also Phlatbed drivers as well. So that was an easy connection to make. They do bring your items inside. They're all insured. We have a $2 million insurance rider on every move that we perform on our platform, in addition to our driver's van screen. And that'll be it, right on time.
Are you braving it?
Oh man, I'm going first.
Okay.
I'm gonna tell you a story.
Okay.
I'm very interested in this. Very, very interested. I'd like to talk to you after a little bit. I grew up in Western New York and have a three generations of family business called Immediate Light Trucking, and we ran light trucking all over the Northeast for about the last 60 or 70 years.
Okay.
So I know this space really, really well. So I think what you guys are doing is fascinating and super interesting. I also have spent probably, $100 million on 1-800-JUNK over the years, if any of you guys have used that service. And I actually once flew to Boston just to use TaskRabbit because I was interested in that when it was started. So I got a lot of energy for what you're doing. A couple of things. First of all, I think the pitch is good. I think it, it's a consumer app primarily, right? And so, again, I think you're in one of those positions where which pitch is it? Am I recruiting drivers? Am I looking for probably investors or not? Am I, trying to convince consumers that it's a service worth using? And so it's sometimes, you have, all you guys have such rich content, right? And you want to tell a little bit of the story of everything that you're doing and everybody that's impacted, but I just think sometimes you might benefit from a narrower path and really understanding who the audience is at that time that you're speaking to and making sure that your path to that is a little bit more specific. So, but other than that, I think, the setup was pretty good. I like the connection. Everybody has to move stuff. It's great. I think the partner landscape is really interesting. I would like in a pitch like yours, because you are kind of disrupting a relatively kind of entrenched, legacy industry. A little bit about competition, a little bit about, if you use us versus, how you might do this otherwise, a little bit of a recognition of, what competition represents to you and how you might be attacking specific aspects of the competition, because there's a lot of people coming at this space from a lot of different directions. So I think that would be beneficial as well too. And then if there is an ask, you've got it up there. You got the last Series A bit, so that's good. You ran out of time. I'm always kind of, with a real ask, like, you want real money and you're gonna do something with it, I love to see use of proceeds as kind of a complementary. I know you ran out of time, so it may be in there, but use of proceeds to me is hugely important with regard to what you're gonna do with the money and what it represents to scale and what the next inflection point is, because in a business like this with the potential to disrupt an industry this large, you're looking at a series of capital raises likely. And so as an investor, you wanna know where this raise puts you in the kind of capital landscape, and so that you can understand with follow-on investment, kind of what the scale is, what the trajectory of growth is, dilution, all those kinds of things. So a little bit more on the investor kind of side of information as well too. But otherwise, good story, good pitch, interesting, very interesting business.
It's great. It's definitely one of the best pitches that I've heard here. I think you covered a lot. You started it really well with being able to connect with the audience. So we all knew exactly what the problem is and could connect with it on a personal level. So I think probably 80 to 90% of us said, yes, I've had that problem. I need this solution. And when you hook your audience that way, then it's an easy road after that. So that was really good. You got a lot of information in the 5 minutes. I don't think there was a lot more you could have done in the 5 minutes, but you might have been able to tighten a few things to get some, like the use of funds in there. But for the most part, great job. You could probably take some text out of this so that we're not tempted to read while you're talking. But good job on addressing total addressable market, telling us exactly how big this is. I left wanting the next conversation, which is exactly what you want. There are basically follow-up questions that I want to know. Things like your moat. This is something that wouldn't be incredibly hard to create.
Right.
I think you already have some things that are differentiators that it would be difficult for other businesses to replicate. So it sounds like you have partnerships with Hertz. There are probably other things that you've already established that would make it hard to get into what you're doing. But I would love to hear more about that. As an investor, I want to know someone else can't come in and, Hertz, for example, can't come in and replicate this in 6 months. So that would be useful to know. I just little things on, I wanted to know more about the competition, wanted to know the valuation, which is, again, really next conversation, so that's fine. Your customers, who are your core customers? I wanted to know that. Is this the family getting the IKEA furniture?
Mm-hmm.
Are these businesses? Who exactly are the core customers? So great job. Lots of follow-up questions that I'd love to have answered.
Awesome. So now I'm going to use the next. You comment again?
No, I was just going to say that last bit was really important on your website. You have some great customer information, like people who had great experiences with the service. It's always great to pull a couple of those into the deck. I just think they're great to connect with audience, that's all.
Awesome. Now, between the two of you, I've got 4 minutes left to answer questions.
You got a lot,
so
yes.
I got a lot of questions.
No more questions.
I got a lot of questions.
All right, great. So basically, from a competition perspective, we put in just under 600K so far, because when we started this, and this was a long time coming actually, we have dolly, log, roadie, and body truck. The difference here is a lot of these guys were raising money at the height of hypervaluations. Mm-hmm. When Uber was valued at 120 billion, and then 48 hours dropped down to 80 for whatever. So they rode that wave. But the problem, at least in my experience, is when you start at an insanely high valuation, a lot of it is very artificial. So your burn rate reflects that. Mm-hmm. And these are multiple rounds. You go series A, B, C. Some of these guys are at series D. And at that burn, you can only raise higher because your next round is going to be a down round, which, I don't want to get too technical there. So we stay very conservative and said, listen, we have the ability, we have the wherewithal. Let's just, and people call me crazy. Like, what are you doing? There's free money out there, go get it. It's artificial, it's inflated, right? And what happened is when the market started to, when valuation started to get corrected, what happened was some of these folks have done down rounds. And we haven't even done a single round yet. And we have a very capable team. We just focused on build a network, build infrastructure, lock down our unit economics, our acquisition costs, understand the marketplace, and then go out to market. And what's been happening is organically, that's been building. As I mentioned earlier, Lyft actually approached us to partner in a few cities, which we started in Philadelphia already. And they introduced us to Hertz, because it turned out a lot of their drivers also drive for us. And same thing with Macari. And those are partnerships that in the future, they are potential acquisition targets, partners per se, because we'll become an integral part of their network, and we build on that going forward. And more importantly, we are the industry's only negotiation engine where you name your price. Every single one of these folks do it the same old way, which is you answer 50 questions, and then you wait for them to send you a quote. One of the problems with Dolly, for example, is they will pair you with the driver and the helper, and those two might have never met. So 2 random people show up to the store or to your house to pick up an item. They might not know each other. One might get there early before the other one, and now he's mad because I've been here. This guy's gonna give me 4 stars instead of 5 because the other guy is late. We don't do that. With us, there's no price uncertainty. If you know it's gonna be $80 to get that couch from IKEA to my office, that's what it's gonna cost flat. But with these guys is metered. They charge by the minute, by the hour, by the weight, by distance. You don't know. So you think it's gonna be $40, it ends up costing you $85. You see a lot of that on the App Store as well. So that's a core differentiator, and it's a feedback loop for us where they all rate each other. So we have the 80-20 challenge where 20% of our drivers are getting 80% of the jobs. So this guy's rated 5 stars, has done 50 completions. Obviously, drivers are gonna prefer, a customer's gonna prefer that driver. And these customers are, weekend shoppers, online marketplace shoppers, consumers, office, small offices, realtors, for example. And in some cases, it's just junk removal, where someone needs an item taken away and they do it all on the platform. You want to say something?
Oh, yeah.
I know.
Your 650K in, was that you said you've done, is that the net 20, is that net 25%?
No, we keep 25%. No, the 650K is a pre-series A.
That's just the ask. What's revenue then?
So right now we're about 40K MRR.
MRR?
Correct.
And you're using MRR terminology as the typical recurring monthly, which represents your net, which is 25%. So you're really moving around 4 times of that in terms of value, right? Because the
Correct.
other 75%. Okay. So I think there's something about insurance that I'd like to hear a little bit more about. So, you know, with these kind of, I don't use that terrible term, all these silly terms, gig economy. But, you know.
Cut his mic off.
Nope, stop. There is a professionalization to what you're offering that is a little different than somebody dropping off my pizza. So I'm quite curious about kind of the process that you're using to be able to both vet drivers, but also the guarantees that you're giving in terms of insurance. And just as a quick stat, I'm curious, how many claims have you had so far?
2 claims.
2 claims.
2. One was $55, the other one was $120.
And you've been around for how long?
Since November 2016.
And how many jobs have you done?
A couple thousand.
That's remarkable. I would have expected a higher claim rate because I have some concern, not about the business, I think it's fantastic, but about how you professionalize this class of worker to the point at which you can kind of move into what I would consider to be the more premium side of the light trucking space to me, which is out of boxes and IKEA furniture and into things like your commercial relationships with retail. And I'll say as an example, in all the years that we ran our business, our greatest premium and the most money we ever made was by being the provider of delivery services to Sears in Roebuck for all their appliances and to Xerox for all their copiers. And so there's a premium in there to be had if there can be a slight level of professionalization and proper insurance, which you may have, but that's kind of the nature of my question.
That's a fantastic one. I have to say something on this one. Great. Our first partner actually was Loggers Moving, Junk Loggers and Elite Moving under the same umbrella. And actually 1-800-GOT-JUNK was our second partner.
Okay, good.
And all of our drivers, as I said earlier,
They're insanely expensive, by the way, but they perform a great service.
Correct, but we clear them. Federal, state, local background check, driver's record, license, sex offender registry, so you are in safe hands. That's why Lyft came to us, because the same process, the same company they use, our processes are very similar. That's why they came to us to partner in Philly to do an initial pilot. So insurance is fine, that's covered. Professionalization, we have moving companies that are actually existing partners with us for some of the much bigger engagements.
Gotcha.
We're going to end it there. Thank you a lot.